Oh, so funny.
Love
All right,
it.
everyone. Welcome back to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast. I'm here today with Lydia, my co host, and Maddie Paige. Hello, ladies. How are we doing?
Hello, hello. Happy to be here.
So excited to finally do an interview together. It's been a minute.
I know Lydia and I
For
have
fun.
taken a back seat. One person does one interview, one person does the other. So here we are. And I had the privilege of really just sitting down with Maddie maybe a couple of weeks ago. And it was literally like we were having some coffee, talking about business, talking about product strategy. And she brings the beautiful other side to the consumer product brands, helping them organically market their business, their brand, getting more eyes on it. So we complement each other so well. So, Maddie, welcome to the show. Feel free to introduce yourself, give us a little insight into your world.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. I am a consumer brand growth specialist, but I help people from the branding, the marketing, the D2C sales, and the community building side of the building of a product-based business. And it's so important in the conversation of PR because it correlates so well. Like this is when you actually get this top of funnel, when you actually get these eyes and this awareness from PR or ads or influencer marketing, whatever kind of top of funnel strategy you're doing. When they come over, they're looking at your organic channels to be able to see if they want to purchase from you, if they want to follow you, if they want to be excited about what you have. And so it correlates so well. So I'm so excited to chat about it.
I love it. So I'm thinking, where do we even start today? I think where would be a good place to start is when a brand comes to you, what are they usually looking for? What are they usually asking? That way our audience can kind of get a feel for
Yeah.
that perfect time when Maddie comes in and helps them grow.
Yeah, totally. I think most people that come to me, they have a foundation. They already have their product. They already have at least a foundation of their brand. They know what they're trying to build. And then I come in and I kind of like to say I'm like the Joanna Gaines of business. I add the little fun frilly stuff to it to optimize it, to make sure that it is fully prepped and ready for cold audiences, warm audiences, and hot audiences to convert. So I basically want to make your online presence a seamless sales system. So there's things in place that when people find you, they kind of move right through the buying cycle. And so I would say for me, many people that come to me, either I work with people from pre-revenue startups all the way to established brands that are kind of growing on a global scale. So some people I'm setting it up, some people I'm optimizing, kind of depends on where you're at. But most of the time we're putting the final touches to make sure that we don't have any rookie mistakes along the way.
Yeah, that's so good. And so when brands come to you, I feel like we have similar questions that we hear from our clients where they'll be like, I'm posting on social media every single day and
Yeah.
my brand's not growing and so I'm looking at PR and they don't really know what PR is. They think sometimes it's a press release instead of public relations, like PR,
Yeah.
I get it. And so when they come to you, um, of course, I'm sure that you have strategies in place, but also it's probably curated depending on the product and the brand. And if it's a
Yeah.
founder facing versus just products. So when somebody's coming to you, do you ever take them through a specific process or maybe an intake to really get an idea of what kind of strategy makes sense for them?
Totally. And it is a similar strategy. It's a similar frameworks, and then we adjust it based on the different industries, products, stage of business. Basically, we've worked with 75 plus industries and 500 plus brands, and they all have a very similar strategy that we're following. Like at the end of the day, it's similar principles. Marketing is marketing, but what we're doing is we're adapting it. If they're a luxury brand, if they are somebody that has discovery sets or sample sets, it's very different than somebody that's just trying to have a full product. It's different to sell something that's $40 versus a $1,200. And so we do have to make some adjustments. And this is why I think it's so important to have a nuanced approach to your business advice. I say it all the time. It's your business growth is nuanced from everybody else's. So your advice has to be nuanced. I love me a podcast. I have 450 episodes out there, but sometimes I have people come to me and they're like, "Hey, Maddie, on your podcast, you said I said this." I'm like, "Ooh, for your brand, does it make sense?" So there are these little nuances that there are some things that's "Oh, you have a skincare brand? No, we're not going to market something about this skincare because it's just different than if you're selling jeans." So it's similar principles, but there definitely are nuances to everything. So what we do is We basically take a good look at where you're at, what are you building, and where you want to go. Because a lot of people will start with a product that they might not actually want to end with, or they don't want it to end with their hero product. It's just kind of where they're beginning. And so I am also building for scalability's sake, because it does, like, we have to make sure that your business and your brand can adapt to where you're trying to go to. So I would say at the intake, what we do is we kind of just ask, where are you now? Where do you see yourself in 3 years? And then where do you kind of see yourself near the end? Like, what is even your goal? Like, if people are trying to build to make this their legacy brand and they want to hand it down to their kids versus if they want to build it to sell in 10 years, it's a very different strategy because we're looking to optimize for different things. So we're really at first looking at what's your vision, where you currently are at, and then we go and we do a deep dive into your data. I'm a big data brain, love me some numbers. And so I do a deep dive into your data and we basically identify where your sales or marketing roadblock is first.
I love that. When we talk to clients for PR, we do similar things. We're like, okay, well, let's start forwards and go backwards. Like, where
Yeah.
do you see yourself in 3 years, in 10 years? And also, like, what does your success look like? I feel like every brand
Yeah.
has a different idea of what success looks like. And every single time we ask
I
somebody, I'm
know.
so interested. I'm like, wow, I didn't think you would say that. And so it's really cool to see what that looks like for everybody. And it's not going to look the same. And then we get to work backwards and create the strategy that works for them. So we know that you're really big on community building, and we see
Yeah.
this as like huge for any brand. In honestly, in our day and age, it's so important to create community. We don't just buy because we see an ad; we buy because it kind of aligns with our values. So, in terms of like community building, can you just tell us what that looks like what that
Yeah.
means, and just really like peel back the curtain? Because I think when we say like you need to build community, a lot of brands are like, what does that even mean? Like, where do I start?
Totally. I like when I say community, a lot of times people are like, does that mean I need like a Facebook group or do I need to like what is this like this external? And no, it doesn't mean you need to actually build like this physical space for a community. You can, and it's great to have like an external space where you can communicate and you can build them a community. That's awesome. But when we talk about community, what I'm talking about is having a loyal ride or die fan base. And so a community, yes, they're like so connected to the value behind your brand. They love your brand. And you can really see this in place with certain brands out there. People that, Rode is a really good example. People love Rode. Like they will bow down to their Rode products. And they've done a great job of building a community around that brand. Why? Because they stood very strong in certain values. They built really strong identity in their brand. And they brought the community with them. They did a lot of like sampling, they do a lot of teasing, they ask a lot of questions. And so you really feel like you were a part of that brand. And so when we really talk about community, what we're talking about is a group of people that are super connected to your brand, that will ride or die for you, that will rave about you to their friends, that will buy every product you put out, and are just absolutely your biggest growth supporters. Because some things that we see is especially when you're talking top of funnel, people come in and they're like, oh my gosh, I want to be a part of this. This seems like a lot of fun. People also, it acts as your growth engine because now you have this loyal fan base that is ever growing. Also being a top of funnel word of mouth. We all know that friend that we're like, where did you get that? And we are asking our friends, what company is that? What brand are you using? And when you have this loyal fan base, they want to rave about you. They will say, oh my gosh, I bought this new lip gloss this week and I'm so obsessed with it. You guys need to try it. And then all of your friends go and buy the same thing. And so that's what we're really trying to build is we're trying to build basically this like growth engine behind your brand that people feel very connected to, that they want to rave about, and that they're going to support for a really long time. It also helps with retention. It helps with average order value. It helps with referrals. All of those things benefit from a community.
Yeah, and then they like sell it for you. It's funny. I have a blood glucose monitor on me right now, and my mom and dad were doing it, and I was like, "What is that?" And they start talking about it, and there's an app, and there's like things that you learn, and just them talking about it, they were raving
Yes.
fans. So I was like, "Oh my god, I need that." It's super affordable, and I bought it like on the spot. So there is such a power in those
Yes.
people that will just like buy. And I do. Lydia has comments, so I have another question, but I'm curious to hear from Lydia first.
I'm cracking up because I'm like, wait, I'm gonna buy that. Right?
Me too. I
And
was
then
like, I need
all
to
about,
try it
yeah,
immediately.
immediately. Well, Bridget and I are like obsessed with health and wellness, and
Me
that's been a
too.
big yeah, it's so good. And big conversation has been like glucose levels and like how
Oh,
it's really
I have
connected.
been low glucose meals for like 2 years at this point. I
Oh,
have
you're
to.
ahead of the game.
She gets us.
Yes.
That's so
So
funny.
when you were talking about like road and using them kind of as a case study, it made me think about building in public. And I wanted to
Yeah,
kind of get your opinion on building in public because I think like when done right, it can definitely be really cool. But it's like,
totally.
I think my question would be, when should you build in public versus not building in public?
Yeah. I mean, building in public right now is the hottest thing for building a brand. And I would say like Gen Z, oldest Gen Alpha, maybe. I don't even know what age they are yet, but are really into it. And it's something that we're seeing being an absolute superpower because in 2026, what we're seeing is that people want to connect with people behind the brand. They care more about the mission. They care more about supporting. They care more about what your values are. And so the people that are building in public are basically building this loyal community prior to ever launching, which is really important. It's really great because they basically have been building this snowball prior to the launch, whereas before it was kind of hard to get too much excitement prior to a launch other than like this is my product and this is why it's so great. And so what it's kind of allowed for is people to have so much buy-in and just support prior to. And it is really great. I really don't see a time that building in public would hurt you. That's the thing. It's like anybody that says, do I need to be the face of my brand? Do I need to build in public? Do I need to do these things? It's never going to hurt. Like there is no business. I have brands that sell $1,200 jackets and I have brands that sell, $17 lip glosses, and building in public for both of them is going to be helpful just because of the actual connection and the trust, just like we just said, with getting like building a community basically builds people that are giving social proof all the time. And before you have that, you can be your own social proof and you're building trust way before the launch even comes out. So they feel like they're so a part of it. One of the strongest consumer behavior theories is the buy-in theory, which is when people are involved in something, they feel way more bought into it. Just think of any brand that has like ever asked you a question. Hey, submit this request, submit like, what are your thoughts on this? We really want to hear from you. All of a sudden, you feel so connected to that product because you took the teeny tiniest of effort to be a part of like building that thing. And so that's really what building out loud does. There are people that just don't want to do it, and that's okay. And there's definitely other ways that we can build without you needing to be the face of the brand. I have some brands that are like, absolutely not. It's just not going to be the case, and that's okay. We can do other things, but you just have to work harder to build that trust and that connection. It's just like if we look at Flo from Progressive or we look at Jake from State Farm. All of them have a face behind the brand because insurance is something that's hard to connect with and that's hard to kind of break through barriers. And it's not something that's a fun conversation. So they put a face that's not the like founder's face, but they put a face behind the brand for people to connect with. And it's the same thing within your own brand. So either you can be the face to start, which is awesome. You can eventually hire somebody to be the face that's kind of like your social media manager, or there's other things that we have to do, but you will have to just work harder if you need community building elsewhere.
I'm just like head nod, head nod, head
Yep, yep,
nod.
yep,
If people could see me,
yep.
I'm just like, Burr. Yeah, this is so, so good. And it's really true. My question would be, what if there's brands that aren't really like social media savvy? What would you recommend for them? Like, are there any other kind of like organic marketing tactics and strategies that still can like build that loyal fan base, but for someone who's like maybe a little older and just like isn't a
Yeah,
social media person?
100%. If you do not kind of lead with digital first, that is okay. There are a lot of ways that you can do this. You can find it locally, even of like that one ice cream shop that everybody loves, and there's something to do with it. Or like, in my local town, we have a dance studio, and there's such a community around this dance studio because they've created community. We feel like we're involved in it. And there's like, you can build community around brands that are local or any type. I would say at the very least, I would still recommend every brand have a landing pad of a social media. You don't even need to post on it, but even if you just have three really solid pin posts at the top of your feed that say who we are, what we do, and what we sell or how to get involved or whatever that looks like, that is at least going to be the landing pad that people need, because 50+% of consumers are checking out your social media prior to actually buying from you or going to your website. The first thing I do when I go to somebody's website is I scroll all the way to the bottom and I click Instagram, because I think I can see who they are on their Instagram way better than scrolling on their website. And so we have to understand that it's just what the consumer wants. And you can just have three posts at the top, or maybe six if you feel like you need to do a little bit more education. But when somebody lands on your social, they need to be able to understand who you are, what you do, what you sell, and why it's so important. And so I would say no matter what, you should have that. But even if you're on an email list, like I call it my 3 C's of community building, is one is connection. So they need some form of connection to you, to the business, to the people there. There just needs to build connection there. It can be trust, it can be value, whatever that is. Communication is that they need the proper communication to truly understand why they should care about this brand. So the communication is all about messaging, it's all about marketing, it's all about your kind of branding, your one-liners, is because there is an actual strategy of just like people need to care about this. And a lot of times that's going to be, your problem that you're solving, what makes you different, your differentiator, all of those things. And then we have collaboration. So it's communication, connection, and collaboration. Collaboration means that they need to be a two-way street there needs to be a two-way street in your marketing somehow. So like for me, my podcast, I do coaching sessions episodes where my listeners can submit their questions and I answer them directly on the podcast. I find that those are the ones that the people that are submitting questions are the people that, feel the most connected to my podcast. They've listened to every one. Now they feel like they're a part of creating my podcast. And so, we have to find a way for some sort of collaboration in your community, because again, we need that buy-in theory. So with those 3 C's, we first have communication, or connection, which is all about the values behind your brand, the trust behind your brand, maybe the person behind your brand, having some sort of actual major points of connection. If you think about community in a local community, in a church, wherever you're thinking of it, what is the major point of community? It's values. That you have a shared value of some sort, whether it's a sports game, no matter what, there is some sort of shared value. And then we have connection or communication, too many C's, communication, which is basically they just need to be able to understand why they should care about this. What is really the biggest deal? What are the values? And what is like, it's like product education at the end of the day. And then we have that collaboration, which we need people involved. We need a two-way street somewhere in our marketing. So as long as we can build those three things, whether it be on an email list, whether it be local, whether it be, whatever it is, we just need, even magazines, like you can have community building with just a campaign. So last night was the Super Bowl as we're recording this, and my brain never shuts off with marketing. And so I'm watching these ads, and the whole time, I'm in this room of people and I'm like, oh, that was a terrible commercial. And they're like, well, why? It's like, because there was no connection to anything that had to do there, or they were communicating the wrong values. Like there's so much that you can do in a commercial, in an email, on social, whatever it might be. You just have to have those three principles through everything.
Oh my God, I feel like this is so good. Yeah, it's funny. We follow like a lot of marketing PR accounts or whatever on our Instagram. So last night I was scrolling on our account, and I saw all these different branding experts like talking about which ads like missed the boat when it comes to their audience, and then which ads did really well in terms of like community building and instilling that. And it's funny, as you're talking about this, we talk about this constantly. Like we will say, as an example, a lot, we'll use like Patagonia for a great company that is very good at communicating their values. If you see somebody wearing Patagonia, you immediately think, oh, there's somebody that enjoys the outdoors. Maybe they really care about the environment. They X, Y, and Z, right, in your brain. And then immediately you're like, oh, okay, that's my person. Or Jeep does it really well, or like whatever, right? So I love that you're talking about this, because we talk about PR, but we also think that it is a 360 approach when it comes to branding. You do need to have some social presence, and you do need to have a PR presence, because all of these pieces are besties and they like communicate a narrative and build a community. So now I'm thinking about like, okay, community building. where do we start with this? Now we understand what it is. So
Yeah.
I guess like when it comes to communicating it on your Instagram page, for example, I do see a lot of founders that are okay being founder facing brands, and it kind of turns into more of a personal brand, but not for brands that don't want to be founder facing. We'll see a lot like they'll have ambassadors come on and like talk for them. What do you
Yeah.
think for like different avenues, I guess, for social presence and like how to communicate your narrative? I guess like, personal brands, like what does that look like? What kind of content would you build versus having ambassadors come in and talk for you? And are those talking points like different, I guess?
Yeah, totally. So, I mean, at the very baseline, you need to actually understand what your message is and make sure that it's different enough from everybody in your industry. And so, you'd be so surprised how many brands that I work with that have been successful just because whether their branding is really pretty. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, what does your brand stand for? And they don't really know. And so, that is baseline. And it doesn't have to be monumental. It doesn't have to be political. It doesn't have to be anything that's that crazy. I just want to know within your industry, where do you put your stake in the ground? All these people are over here, and then they're talking like quality, they're talking like health, they're talking low toxic, and then all of a sudden, where are you? We want you to be over here, whether it be branding, messaging, whatever. I want you to basically be able to differentiate yourself based on some sort of one-liners. That is at the core. You also have to like really realize that your consumers care. The customers care about your values at this point. And so many people are like, Maddie, I don't think that like this is a personal mission. It's not a brand mission. I don't think my customers care, but they really do. So, whether you are an ethical fashion line, you're doing a lot of recycling of your fabrics and all of that, like people care. They think it's cool. And that's what's going to actually create that raving fan base. So first things first, of course, you have to know what your actual differentiator is. And a differentiator is not that you're all natural. It's not that you use 100% cotton. It's not that you like, unless it really is, you are the first person to do that. But if there's more than 3 to 5 other major players doing that, it's no longer a differentiator. So like a good example is tallow. I had a lot of tallow clients at first, tallow skincare, so many. And then it started to be okay. At first, tallow wasn't that big. Okay, cool. That can be your differentiator. Why is tallow so cool? And now there's a million tallow companies. Now you're instead of differentiating in the skincare industry, you're differentiating in the tallow skincare industry. So now you still have to differentiate further than just being tallow. So sometimes this can kind of evolve as your industry evolves. But I would say first things first, you have to understand it. Second, you have to understand that your customers do really care. And then the third is that I want you to be clearer rather than clever. Too many times people are like trying to be really fluffy with their messaging. I'm sure you get this a lot. And I'm like, I have no idea what you're talking about. That makes no sense to me what you're actually saying that this product is going to do. I want you to be so incredibly clear. Don't come up with these random words, these like one-liners that don't matter. I want you to be like very clear.
I'm giggling because yeah, this was like we were like we're going to die on this hill. We used to have a lot of clients who would utilize language that no one else will understand. Only them. And we're like
Yeah.
we understand that you understand what that means, but it's not clear. And if you are not clear, you're going to confuse. So, clarity,
Yeah.
confusion. Exactly. Absolutely. Oh my gosh, that's all.
Yes.
Like mic
And
drop.
yeah, if I could drop it. But to finish the question of, if you don't want to be a founder, how do you really do this? If you don't want to be founder facing, I do think that there's a certain nuance here that it doesn't mean you have to tell people you had a belly ache last night to be a founder facing brand. Like you can still be a founder facing brand, have your face out there and just be talking about your product. Like just be the face of your brand. People need to see faces on your profile. And so if it's not you, it does have to be somebody else. So you can do UGC, you can hire people to do it. But in the beginning, especially for a startup, like it can be a couple $100s at least to get somebody to create a UGC video for you. So is it worth $300 or is it worth your ego just kind of sitting aside and creating a couple videos? So you don't always have to be founder facing by any means. I don't like putting my face all over the internet. Like I didn't start my business to be like my plastered face everywhere. It wasn't what I did. But when I started my product-based business a decade ago at this point, nothing was selling. And all of a sudden I was like, I think it's because nobody knows who's selling it. And so then I started to like incrementally, I was super embarrassed. I didn't want my friends to see it. I didn't tell anybody I was doing it. And I just started like kind of putting my face out there, and it was mortifying. Like I would have people in, I was in college and they were like, "Hey, is this you?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's clearly me. My face is right there." And I was so mortified. And so like I understand where people are coming from. It wasn't something that I wanted to do, but at this point, I have so much conviction in it being the point that has like helped my business grow, and especially in a service-based capacity, it's necessary. But even from product at this point, like it really does add so much of a superpower. If you don't want to do it, what you have to do is double down on your story, double down on case studies, double down on the messaging, and you're just going to have to get more numbers and more like deep and rich without there actually being without there actually being a face there, which is really hard. And so, yes, it's UGC. You can do influencers, things like that. You basically are, okay, if you're not going to use this superpower that you have, we have to find that connection point elsewhere. So we just have to work a little bit harder to try to find it. It is possible, and many brands do it. And I know a lot of people are like, okay, but my favorite brand, I don't even know who owns it. There's so many brands out there, but we also have to remember that they might have a leg up on us. Like they might already be a household name, which they already have the awareness, they already have the trust, they already have the recognition. You can get there too. It might just be in the first year or two or maybe three in your business until you can either have somebody else be the face or you can kind of dilute that a little bit within your marketing.
Yeah, gosh, this is all so good. So I'm thinking of even brands that I personally like and follow that don't have the founder, but they story tell really well on their like
Yes.
pages. So it'll be like really cute aesthetic content that makes sense. And it might be a little outside of the box, but it's really aligned, or case studies like you had mentioned, carousels where it's like, I love I love like the shareable carousels. It's like Monday and it's like cute pictures behind it, but it's like it's aligned with that brand. And so, yeah,
Yes.
I'm thinking about just like how can you create a story that's telling those values that you were talking about. And I just want to give a moment to what you said about differentiators. That was
Hmm.
absolutely stunning. We've had so many. We've had so many brands reach out to us. We've been selling a ton of PR strategy sessions and plans, which has been super fun for us. But what we find really interesting is a lot of brands will hone in on like their backstory of how they created the idea. And we work with a
Yeah.
lot of like startups. But when it comes to the actual product, they cannot tell you the differentiators. They're like, oh, it's I don't know, we'll use an example, say like it's a candle. They'll be like, oh, it's an organic candle that uses,
Yeah. Soy
beeswax.
wax.
Okay, so is every brand. So is every candle brand. So like you really need to lean into those differentiators. And I loved the way you
Yeah.
said like the tallow analogy. Like that was absolutely genius. It was like, okay, tallow's no longer a niche anymore. So how do you be a niche within that niche? Like how do
Yeah.
you really laser focus? Like there are reasons why you created your brand. I'm just going on a tangent right now because I'm so passionate about this, but like there's reasons you created that. So how do you communicate it? And I love
Yeah.
this. So that'll bring me to, I think, my final question today, which will be like, how do you communicate your differentiators? Like, what do you tell your clients when they're like, okay, I know it's different, but I just don't know what those little details are?
Yeah, totally. And at the end of the day, your product doesn't actually have to be different. Let's look at Graza olive oil. Like Graza olive oil, same product, same olive oil, pressed the olives. Who even knows where they're from? But they differentiated based on brand, based on use, based on like actual feeling of using the product. So there's a lot of ways that you can differentiate. You don't actually have to innovate. So like to take the tallow example, I have tallow clients that work with moms that are like prenatal, postnatal. That's their brand. They make tallow for, that year, maybe 3 to 5 years if they have multiple kids, that year of your life. That is with tallow, they're saying that they are creating products that are going to be helpful around those years. Would that product still work on your face on a day to day? Yes, most likely. But they've been able to differentiate it because it's a similar use. Whereas I also have people that talk to like, really dry skin conditions, skin like eczema, psoriasis, things like that, and it being supportive there. And so, same product, they're honestly probably very similar formulations, but they're, different use cases in how they market it so they can direct their marketing to a specific audience. So you can differentiate based on audience, like that example, based on actual use of the product of like, okay, no, we do have a different ingredient in here that's proprietary, or on brand, basically. And so like Graza, same stuff, just a different brand. They just made it fun. I mean, I saw Graza for the first time in an aisle in a grocery store, and I was like, ooh, this is cool. And I bought it just because I liked the packaging. And then I liked the squirt bottle. Like there were so many things that I thought were fun, and I kept buying it. And so they truly just differentiated based on colors and fun and vibes. And so there's a lot of ways that you can differentiate. And if you're lucky enough to be able to innovate in 2026, like go head first into that innovation. But you can differentiate based on ideal customer. Like I have a jewelry brand who sells gold-plated jewelry. And they say that they sell sweat-proof gold-plated jewelry for athletes, even though anybody can wear it. It isn't like every gold-plated jewelry is technically sweat-proof because it's all created the same, but it's not an innovative product per se, but it is innovative in how they're marketing it to a certain audience. So you can niche down in a lot of different ways.
Those are such good examples, Maddie. And it makes me think of like everything that's in my shower right now, even everything that's marketed
Yes.
just for babies. It's like baby shampoo. I'm like, can't anyone use that?
Yes.
But this is just such a good point that any brand listening can really take a look at their brand and be like, okay, who's it for and what's different about it? And it doesn't have to be so like crazy or new and innovative and anything like that. So
Yeah.
gold, Maddie, gold.
Good. I'm glad.
So
Glad we
good.
resonate.
Of course, I can see us having this conversation again and again and again.
Yeah.
So let us know if she should come back on the show, everyone. I think yes. There's so many gold nuggets here. Maddie, where can people connect with you?
Yeah, you can check my podcast out. It's the Business Growth Podcast. You'll see my face right there. I have like 450 episodes. Go over there. These ladies will be on there I think it's actually in the next couple of days. So by the time this is out, it should be out. Otherwise, my handle everywhere is This is Madison Paige. You can follow me on Instagram. And yeah, This is Madison Paige or the Business Growth Podcast.
So good. Thank you, Maddie. And I can't wait for people to find you. Your work is incredible. Everything that we talked about today, like, needs to be shouted from the rooftops. So make sure to listen to her podcast. We'll link everything below. And thank you for listening to another episode of Visibility Era, the podcast.